In March 2025, a confidential message from Bern sent shockwaves through Ottawa. Switzerland, a country globally known for neutrality, caution, and strict fiscal discipline, was suddenly facing the largest budget crisis in its defense procurement history. The cost of the F-35 program had exploded far beyond what citizens were promised. Early internal warnings were not shared with the public in time. And now, Swiss citizens are asking a simple but dangerous question. What did our government know, and why weren't we told? Switzerland, a country globally known for neutrality, caution, and strict fiscal discipline, was suddenly facing the largest budget crisis in its defense procurement history. The cost of the F-35 program had exploded far beyond what citizens were promised. Early internal warnings were not shared with the public in time. And now, Swiss citizens are asking a simple but dangerous question. What did our government know, and why weren't we told? This story isn't only about Switzerland. It's a warning signal for Canada, a country preparing to sign the biggest fighter jet contract in decades. When Prime Minister Mark Carney ordered a full review of Canada's F-35 deal, he wasn't just reviewing an aircraft purchase. He was questioning sovereignty, transparency, and the future of Canada's national industry. The question now is unavoidable. Is Canada about to fall into the same trap? In 2021, Switzerland held a national referendum. Citizens voted narrowly in favor of buying 36 F-35 fighter jets for 6 billion Swiss francs. That figure was presented as firm. The contract included a so-called fixed-price clause. Everything appeared transparent. Everything seemed under control. But by 2024, Swiss defense analysts began spotting serious red flags. Long-term operating costs didn't align with early estimates. Replacement part prices surged. The maintenance system demanded major infrastructure investments that had never been clearly disclosed. According to public reports, total lifecycle costs could exceed original commitments by more than 50%. But here's the most troubling detail. Internal warnings existed early in the process, yet they were not widely disclosed until after the contract had already been signed. Experts argue this wasn't outright fraud. Instead, it reflects the reality of modern defense contracts, where hidden costs are buried inside technical clauses, global supply chains, and long-term technological dependencies that only become visible years later. The lesson from Switzerland is crystal clear. The sticker price is only the tip of the iceberg. And now, Canada is standing at the same crossroads. Ottawa's F-35 project is currently estimated between 19 and over 27 billion Canadian dollars. And that figure still does not include full life cycle costs. Independent analysts warn the real total could exceed $30 billion, possibly much more. The question is, how many Canadian citizens actually know this? In February 2025, Prime Minister Mark Carney made a move that surprised many observers. He ordered a comprehensive review of the F-35 contract, not to cancel it, but to fully understand what Canada is committing to. This wasn't routine politics. It was a signal about accountability. Carney and his advisory team focused on three core questions. First, is Canada's infrastructure truly ready? Cold Lake in Alberta and Bagotville in Quebec, the two main bases, require billions of dollars in upgrades to support the F-35. The maintenance system is, well, highly complex. The supply chain is entirely dependent on a global network controlled by Lockheed Martin. Second, what are the real domestic industrial benefits? Official reports suggest Canadian firms will participate in the F-35 supply chain with contracts worth several billion dollars. That sounds impressive, until it's compared with the total cost exceeding $27 billion. What percentage of that value actually stays in Canada? Economic analysts note that most of the value flows abroad, primarily to the United States and international subcontractors. Core technologies, design authority, and intellectual property remain outside Canada's control. This locks Canada's aerospace sector into the role of assembler, not innovator. Third, and most critical, does the F-35 align with Canada's long-term strategic interests? This is not a debate about performance. The F-35 is technologically advanced. That's not in question. The real issue is independence. Can Canada decide when to deploy, maintain, upgrade, or modify its aircraft without external approval? Without waiting for Washington, or Lockheed Martin, to sign off? By raising these questions, Carney reopened a debate Canada arguably should have had years ago. As Ottawa reassesses, an alternative has begun drawing attention: Sweden's Gripen E. The Gripen isn't the most powerful fighter on paper. It isn't as stealthy as the F-35, but that misses the point. The difference lies in the model. Saab doesn't just sell aircraft, it sells an entire ecosystem. When Brazil signed the Gripen contract, it received genuine technology transfer. Brazilian engineers were trained to design, assemble, and upgrade aircraft domestically. Embraer became a strategic partner, not a passive subcontractor. When the Czech Republic considered Gripen, Sweden proposed building a regional maintenance hub in Prague, creating skilled jobs, retaining expertise, and turning the country into a Central European logistics center. This is exactly the kind of opportunity Canada could have. Imagine companies like Bombardier or CAE not just assembling small components, but co-developing radar systems, combat software, and even a customized Gripen variant for Arctic operations. Analysts estimate this model could create 8,000 to 12,000 high-tech jobs, long-term careers in design, research, and development, not temporary assembly work. Operating costs also matter. Public data shows the Gripen E costs roughly $8,000 per flight hour, while the F-35 ranges between $35,000 and $47,000. Over 30 years, that difference adds up to billions. But the biggest advantage isn't cost, it's autonomy. Canada wouldn't need permission to update software, modify weapons, or decide deployment schedules. This debate isn't about which jet is better, it's about decision-maker accountability. In a democracy, citizens deserve transparency when tens of billions in public funds are at stake. Canadians deserve clarity on three things: the real limits of industrial benefits, the risks of monopoly maintenance pricing, and whether alternatives were genuinely explored or simply dismissed. This isn't partisan politics, it's responsible governance. Switzerland's experience shows what happens when governments react after costs spiral out of control. Canada still has time. The question now is simple. Will Canada listen to the warning? Economic resilience or military interoperability? Which should define Canada's future? Let me know what you think. If you want more deep analysis like this, like and subscribe. Thanks for watching.